Thank you. Most people know me as simply as just Doc Deb. Um, my project is on creating an inclusive education Facebook page. Um, and I felt the need to do this. My first project that I started on was actually creating a resource room at my particular school because the closest one to us was 15 miles away. And the students would have to get up on the bus like 5 o'clock in the morning just to make their routes to get to 15 miles away. And so I wanted to do that. Sat down with people at my district office, and they told me basically, if you get a resource room, then everybody in the district is going to want a resource room. Which is why I wished I had heard that "why not" speech prior to that. So I changed it, but I'm going to go back and revisit it because my goal is to put a resource room at Woodland Elementary. And so we want to make sure that they don't have to be inconvenienced within their actual neighborhood. One of the parents we sat in on one of the IEP meetings, and they are getting ready to send one of our students to the resource room 15 miles away. The parent turned around and looked at me. She said, "Help me." What questions do I need to ask? And so when I started guiding her, the district coordinator for special education was behind the parent, and she was like, you know, that kind of stuff. And I don't want to put people out there on blast, but it happens. And so that's why I'm going to team up with Miss Serena, and I'm going to team up with Mr. Melvin Watts with, contacting these parents and, sort of educating them. But it's leading me to do this, to educate parents, give them resources, things to ask about when they're in IEP meetings, et cetera, et cetera. It broke my heart because this little student, his whole entire family are Woodland graduates. And so when he was told basically he was going to resource room 15 miles away, the parent had a question. She said, "What about sports?" He wants to play sports. And the first thing they told him, they said, um, if you don't make the grades, you don't go down here, you're not going to qualify anyway because you have to have like a 70, in order to compete with the sports. And so she was sort of disheartened, but we got her back focused, and we said the main thing is his academic progress. And we've got to get him the resources to help him strive and be able to work and live and thrive as an independent individual when he hits life after school. And so he's at the elementary level. But I wanted to create this page because inclusive systems, they provide better quality education for all children, and it's instrumental in changing discriminatory attitudes like I just discussed. When you have people who look at students when they come into that mainstream process in the classrooms, they tend to overlook those students a lot. And the attitude of the teacher sort of spills off on the students. And if the teacher is not tolerant and understanding and seeking to understand how to better educate children with disabilities, then you're going to have students who have negative attitudes and who won't pretty much understand what it's like to deal with a student who has disabilities. And we want to make sure that those students are like I said here, we create that inclusive environment not only to help those students with learning disabilities, but to also support those students that do not have a learning difference by making them more aware, tolerant, and understanding of each other. So it's all about tolerance, and it's all about making sure that those students become helpers, peer helpers to the students with disabilities. Why again? Studies have shown that inclusive learning benefits all students in the classroom by providing thoughtful, personalized instruction and promoting individuality and equity. More than 60% of students with disabilities spend at least 80% of their school day in the general education classrooms, according to the U.S. National Center for Education Statistics. And if you looked at IEPs, you'll see that they say 80% of the time is to be spent inside of the general education classroom. Now, does that happen? It does not. It doesn't. We'll be here for 2 more hours if we start talking on that. For some, it's in writing. I'll say that, and that's all. It's in writing, and that's all. Uh, the inclusion, the inclusive education resources will concentrate on providing guidance on inclusive education for persons with disabilities and or students with special diverse educational needs. The purpose and importance of inclusive education teaching and learning materials is to make lessons interesting, learning easy, and it will enable teachers to easily express their concepts to students who are struggling to understand and comprehend the material. Learning materials can significantly increase learners' achievement by supporting learnings. And so you have a lot of teachers who truly struggle when it comes to providing the right resources for students with disabilities, intellectual disabilities in their classroom. So this page will help them provide better teaching strategies for some of the students with disabilities. All right, establishing a successfully integrated learning environment is a complex task involving teachers, administrators, and families. For inclusion to show positive benefits, the learning environment and instructional models must be carefully established to provide strong learning opportunities for all students. Special education and general education teachers must have mutual respect and open minds towards the philosophy of inclusion, as well as a strong administrative support, me, and knowledge of how to meet the needs of students with disabilities. So I myself become educated, and PIPA has really opened up my mind, and I can really feel the pain of parents who had to deal with the education system and fighting constantly for their students to receive all the benefits that they deserve and that they actually had access to. But like I said, sometimes you have those people behind you saying, for whatever reasons, which is not okay. The timeline for me to complete this will be September 30th, 2022. I'm in touch with a friend of mine who is also one of the guys on Fiverr.com. I don't know if y'all know anything about that, but they actually help you create web pages, Facebook pages, you name it, they know how to do it. So I go to the experts and people who actually can assist with that. But the actual project work and things that he'll be posting will be coming from me because I will get those resources. I'm a member of CLASS, which is Council for Leaders of Alabama Schools, as well as Allocase, which is Alabama Council of Administrators of Special Education. And they provide us every conference we go through CLASS. They give us so many materials and things, and I'm like sitting there looking at it like, man, this would benefit our babies. And so that's what I'm going to use my main resource hub to get that information out to parents. I'm going to do roundtables. Mr. Melvin met me this morning, and he said that I think it's APEC. Yes, Alabama Parent Education Center. I'm going to be reaching out to him to get some of his people to come in and educate my parents because I want them educated, and I want them to know what's available to them. I love being an administrator, but I also the children. They're the reason I'm there, and without them, I don't have a job. And so when I'm faced with dealing with how to best provide the services that my babies need, I always call them my babies. When I am faced with that, it seems as though I'm always at odds with the district, and I don't want to be like that. But I'm finding out through PIPA, I'm going to have to advocate on behalf of those children. And so I'm really grateful for this, Miss Linda, being a part of PIPA and meeting all these wonderful parents and learning about their fight, their struggle, and the things that they had to go through. And now, being a principal until I retire, I'm going to make sure that no other kid have to go through that. So that's going to be my timeline. I'll have it done by September 30th, but I'm thinking I'll have it done by June because I'm about to get out of school now. we we are nearing the finish line. We're like in single digits. May 25th is the last day of school. So I have more time to devote to this and just get the parents and the community members what they need. My goal was to provide inclusive education resources for teachers, paraprofessionals, parents, and family members, and also provide parents with IEP meeting information. When they go to those IEP meetings, they need to know the questions to ask. And a lot of them don't know what questions to ask. A lot of them don't know what services they are actually owed. And so I want to put that out there for them. It's not going to be a favorite for my district, but I think the parents as a whole will love it. So that's what's motivating me because I have a niece. I had to take off from my job to drive to Tennessee just to sit in an IEP meeting and listen to all the garbage that was being said to my mother, who was guardian of my niece. You know, I had to sit there and listen to that, and it really angered me. And then I knew, because I understood special education law and I understood what services they basically deserve based on the disabilities. And I started asking questions. And when I started asking questions, all hell broke loose. And the first thing was like, Dr. McCauley, let me get back to you on that. It was always, let me get back to you on that. You're supposed to know. And that was my thing to them. You're supposed to know. This is what she is struggling with, and you're telling me you don't have the services to meet her needs? And so, needless to say, I didn't even get back into Alabama. The school called my mom back and asked her to please come back the next morning to meet with the principal, and they had those services in place. So I got a little bit of advocacy experience just from that. So mom, when she has a question about it, if she's not calling my Aunt Joanne, she's calling me about special education services. So that's what motivated me. My little niece was a little driving force behind that. And I said, I don't want another family to have to be my mama going to an IEP meeting and they're telling her basically that they're not going to give this baby the services she needs. So they didn't even want to test her. You know, she had already qualified for special education, but she had autism. She had autism, and they didn't even know that she had autism. She had already gone to the doctor. Mom told them what she had and what she was diagnosed with, and they had their own little system of services and eligibility and what you're going to qualify for. They're like, no, you're going to use what the doctor just gave her, and you're going to give her another screening test. You're going to do that universal screening. You're going to do it all over again, and we're going to qualify for those services. And my niece, y'all, she's graduating on May 28th. And so I am so proud of her. I mean, it wasn't easy, you know, just dealing with all of the crying. She didn't understand how to do stuff, and my mom would be sometimes upset because, you know, she look in Power School and she see that she had like zeros. And my mom was like, why didn't you do this? And so she didn't even start crying. And she said, Aunt Debbie, she said, I don't understand. I don't understand. And so when she told me that, I said, Mom, I said, put her on the video. So we would go on Zoom and I would look and see what I could do actually to help her. But she struggled, especially being in that music class. And the music teacher was not in favor of helping her or following the IEP. I said, Mom, 2 words, sue them. Sue them. When my mom called them and told them about that, they withdrew her out of their music class, which was one of the major requirements for her to graduate, and they found something comparable to that. And so 2 words, y'all. 2 words, and they will get right. And so this is the basis of my project, and I'm going to sit down. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I forgot. I'm not done. All right, I'm going to do needs assessment surveys. I'm going to have that done by the end of May. I've created some surveys for my teachers about special ed as well as my paraprofessional about what are some resources that you can actually use to help my students in these intervention when they do their pullouts. And so still waiting on that. I did that via Google Forms, and so I'll have that completed by the end of May. And then they're voting on my Facebook page, the name of it, and I put inclusive learning access for all, and that's going to be a final vote on that one on May 23rd, next Monday. The next Monday, rather, and then gathering resources for teachers, parents, and family members. That's all still on my to-do list. So, questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
ADAP has a wonderful book that I had them to send so that I could give out at the resource fair.
Okay.
And I'm forgetting the name. Right's not a favor.
Right's not a favor.
You
Ooh,
need to
lovely.
get
I
a
need that.
copy of that
Okay.
for every one of your
Parents.
teachers and parents. I mean, I don't know how many he'll give you.
As many as you want, and they're looking.
Mr. James, can I get some of those books?
I've got some books too.
Yes, ma'am.
You can download it off the website.
Okay, on ADAP's website. Okay, we'll do. A Bible. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you said you're going to do your teachers and ask them what resources they need, are you assuming that they know everything they're supposed to know to begin with?
Many of them have gone through professional developments. They did which was a while back, like the Lee versus Macon and all of that training, but many of them had to do a Schoology, special education. They had to do that professional development, but it wasn't carried out by the district. It was actually basically videos posted to them and telling them basically some of the resources that they're used. So my page is basically going to provide actual videos. It's going to have PDFs, all those types of resources, because the teachers are really struggling with what, and when you have teachers ask you, well, what am I supposed to do? Tell me what to do. And that's basically what they're saying. And so that's pretty much why I would do
That's
that.
what I'm saying. If they don't know, they don't even know what to ask for if they don't know what they're supposed to be doing.
Inside of
really.
in the survey, I actually have like multiple choice items of what they would actually need in terms of resources, whether they're going to need ClassWorks, which actually has like a universal screener in it. And it's a program that they actually sell you to do progress monitoring on students and to see where students are, what skills they lack, and all of that. And I asked them, would they be interested in a program like that, something like Lexia, anything that will read to them, have it. Because when they take state assessments and things like that, the students are used to having some of those texts read aloud. And there's a lot of internet being burnt when they start doing the ACAP testing, especially with assistive technology and all of that. So they have like inside of I'll send you a copy of it, but they actually have like multiple choice items, things that they would actually be interested in, what they would like to see on my Facebook page. Yes, ma'am. I'll come back to you.
I was just going to say, I do a lot of parent training, free community services on how to learn how to attend an IEP meeting and what questions to ask, how to build an IEP folder, what records to retain, how to organize that folder, what accommodations to ask for, what services you should be asking for. I do a lot of those trainings in the community for free. So if you ever want to reach out and do one of those sessions, just let me know. I'm happy to
I want to do
collaborate
it. I'm letting you know
with
right
you.
now. I take it.
I also,
Or tell us when you're doing it.
yeah, I collaborate with
Do
a
you
lot
do
of.
it through Zoom or Or
So I
any-
usually partner with some nonprofits in town to
Okay.
deliver those programs. I can let you know, or we can just do one together. But I also I went through a lot of this with my daughter. And so I've learned how to point parents to resources. If your child has this diagnosis, I show them, like what Alex is doing right now, here's how to find a list of accommodations. Here's how to find these tools, because over time they may get more diagnoses and you need to understand how to find these resources yourself. So here's how you can learn how to do this yourself. Here's how to become the advocate that you need to become for your child. So let me show you these steps. Let me show you how to build this folder. Let me show you how to start building these questions so that you have these tools on hand so that you can do this meeting, but also the next 12 years of meetings too. And so, you know, one of the questions I always tell my parents to ask is, what other services does my child qualify for? And that always opens the door at the meeting. Or what other accommodations does she qualify for? Because then it puts it on the school
Yes.
to have to answer the question. And I always give them lists of questions like that starts that conversation. So I'm happy to help in any way
I need
and
your
partner.
help on that. I do.
And I also have like a gazillion resources
Yeah,
as well.
'cause-
I know you do too, but I also have like from the parent legal side.
Right.
I want those resources too. And we,
I wish I could get a whole session on it, but I have so much stuff.
Yeah, we have like we have once a month meetings like right now for parents to educate them on IEP meetings and what they actually need and who they can bring, et cetera, et
all
cetera.
right, last question, and then we're going to
yeah.
watch Veronica's because we're out of time for the room and everything. So we've got to really, sorry,
But thank
Janice,
y'all.
we got to wrap it up. So-
I got one question. I was told that my child get on the special going to the special ed going to school. It was a time limit from the time the bus picked him up to the time he got to the school. So I'm trying to understand why y'all got to go 15 miles. Is that because of your area?
It's because of where we're located. We're like rural, like really off in the weeds, like, and we're 15 miles from the school that actually houses the resource room. It's like we have like 4 high schools and 4 elementary schools, and that's because you have some schools that's like K through 12 and they still have the elementary aspect to it. Well, they just put all of those schools, if they have students that have to go to the resource room, they all have to be bused to Wedowee.
Okay, so y'all don't have the resource because of the.
Yeah, and that was one of the things she did mention to me, that we couldn't get a resource room because other people would want one. Huh. And that's why not.
Everybody should